we'll start our
Yeah.
conversation today. Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to our session today on StockTrak. My name is Mike Duff. I am a CPA, and I have worked for many years with the development of software and also the integration of supplemental programs with universities and corporations. Along with me is Lauren Minch. I'll let Lauren introduce herself quickly.
Yeah, Lauren Minch. I've spent 20 years in the accounting and finance industry, starting out from auditing all the way up to being a CFO of a very large family office. I'm currently an adjunct professor at 2 different universities and president of the CFA Society of Dallas-Fort Worth and a member of the AICPA Personal Financial Planning Group.
So with that being said, both Lauren and I have spent quite a few years in the educational arena and once again acting in the capacity of software design, custom curriculum, as well as corporate controllers and CFOs, as well as educators. So we've had a lot of activity in these areas working with educators. So with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about StockTrak. And then we're going to move into what Lauren will be discussing with you, which is, the design and using StockTrak and our products in support of your courses and curriculum. So from the standpoint of StockTrak, as you see here on the screen, we have StockTrak by the numbers. 10 million users have participated in the StockTrak platform thus far, which is considerable. On an annual basis, over 1 million are using our platform. We have 1,000 plus universities, and we have 20,000 high schools using us now with some of our newest products, and also 100 corporations. So we have a significant number of users that participate in the StockTrak platform. Just to give you a little bit of a flavor as to the universities and corporations that use this, as you see right here on this page, we have TD Bank, we have Bank of America, Scottrade. So some major corporations participate with us. Also on the university side, as you saw there, we have 1,000 plus universities with over 80% of the top business schools using StockTrak. Couple to note there, sitting there with Berkeley, NYU, UT Austin, UMass, etc. So the program has been widely accepted and used at high levels at major institutions, both on a corporate level and on an academic level. So when we talk about StockTrak, it used to be just a trading platform only, and that has been built out to be much more encompassing. So we have what we refer to as our financial literacy building blocks, which is we have over 300 lessons that include all types of content from personal finance, econ, business, and accounting. And that's part of our building blocks that can be integrated in with our program. We have the real world budgeting simulation program. This is kind of our newest product over the last year, which really drives at that basic fundamental financial literacy of savings and credit card and credit scores and just managing your finances, something that many are sorely lacking in this day and age. And then we have the real world stock market trading, the #1 stock trading simulation in the market, and has been for the last 30 years. So an extremely powerful program, but these building blocks can be used to build upon a comprehensive financial literacy program. And it also can be used just as a supplement and designed to be used within personal finance classes, derivatives, more advanced financial classes as well. So with that, that's a brief background on StockTrak. What we threw up here is just a quick screen. This gives you an idea. We have about 100 of our universities that use private branded sites. So if you are interested at a point in that type of approach, this is a site where you see StockTrak right now would be the actual logo of the university. And this allows for a very customized feeling and a site for all your students to jump in and participate in the program. So the next I wanted to chat with you about very briefly is it's the importance of customizing the program for you. So this is our newest dashboard iteration, which will be released in about 2 weeks. But once again, this is designed to show you that when we build out a custom course for you, if if in fact this was a private site, that StockTrak logo would be your school. But if you're not doing a private site, you're just doing a class, your students would get a link and they would come into this class. And we would work with you on the building of a course. You could also do that yourself, but we're here to assist you. And as you see here, you can design a course to say go over a semester. You can build out lessons and go over 10 weeks, 8 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever you choose. And as you see here on the screen, our objective is, this is the student dashboard. So when they come in, students are very comfortable seeing exactly what their assignments are for the week, what they need to accomplish, and what they have and have not accomplished. As you see under week 3, there are a series of assignments. So there's a lesson, says what is a stock? So that's a foundational lesson, but you can also customize that course to say, not only do I want that done in week 1, but I want them to actually buy or sell a stock in a given week. And once again, that's a decision that we make in the course design. So you could have them do 5 trades a week, 10 trades a week, whatever you feel you would like to have in that course to achieve your objectives of, the experiential learning of actually trading and buying stocks, bonds, etc. Now, down in the lower section of that, we kind of have a summary of the products that they're using. So if they're using the budget game, it actually on their dashboard would show where they're at with their budget game, their net worth, their credit score, etc. And below that, you see the portfolio. So this is, once again, a quick snapshot view when they land in there to see how they are doing overall in their activities in supplemental products. Now, additional items will show up in the dashboard, and it shows most active stocks traded, a watch list, if they create a watch list that they want to keep an eye on certain stocks. So a variety of tools exist in there. Now, I'm just going to quickly mention over here in the right-hand column, we have actually, thank you, Lauren, we have announcements. So these are ways that you can communicate with the students if you have something you'd like to bring to their attention. And then there's actually a section there called forum posts. So your custom class has your students in it, and your students have a private forum that they can participate in and communicate with one another. So that's kind of a rough outline of the course, the structure in the landing pages, as well as the custom site that each student would use. So just one or two more screens. I think I just want to, this is going to be a trading screen. Just gives you a quick example. Lauren's going to actually execute a real trade in the platform. You can see the functionality, the tools, the research, all of those things that are available here. And then finally, it's important to get reporting. So we have the ability of giving you rankings for all of your students, based on portfolio returns. Lauren, would you like to discuss some of the other rankings that may be used, since Lauren is the CFA?
Sure. Some of the other rankings we have is the Sharpe ratio, where the students can be ranked on that. So if you really wanted to focus on the risk-adjusted return and not just the highest portfolio value, there's that ability. And then we are currently working on, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to have the Traynor ratio and then Jensen's alpha that would be available, that you could monitor the students and see their performance on those two and do rankings on those. Okay.
So I think we're going to have Lauren, who has, as I said, is both a CPA and a CFA, and has worked in universities designing curriculum and courses as well, and has actually used StockTrak in her actual courses. So she's going to kind of walk through some of the features of StockTrak, and then can open up for questions and any further discussions.
Okay. Can you see the trade stocks screen okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
great. So I figured I would start here, just because most of you would be coming to the Trade Stocks platform, having your students come here. And so I figured I would just start here to show you the system. I'd show you a couple of the other trading options you can do. And then I thought what might be good, since you professors that are on the call, is to actually go through and set up a course so you can see all the different parameters you can use when you set up the course. And then when we set up that course, you can see all the different lessons that are already within the StockTrak system. So really what you can see here, what I wanted to show first is we have an ability to whitelist certain stocks. So you could have it where the students can trade any 35,000+ stocks because StockTrak is on 50 different exchanges. So you can have that universe open to the students, but you can continue to narrow it down where maybe it's just US stocks, or maybe even it's just certain stocks, 30, 40 stocks that you want the students to focus on. And so I just wanted to show this, that you have the ability where these are the only stocks, not these specific ones, but just to show you an example of a whitelist where the students would only have the ability to trade the stocks that you whitelisted when you set up the course. There's also an ability to blacklist certain stocks if you don't want students to trade certain stocks. And that came into play for me when I was using StockTrak to teach investments course. The students were having to do a report at the end of the semester based on their StockTrak stocks trades that they had made. And sometimes stocks that have negative earnings, as you know, sometimes those ratios are a little bit hard to do when you've got negative earnings. So maybe you want to blacklist certain stocks, and so they wouldn't be able to trade them here. But going in and actually trading certain stocks, I'll just switch to this one really quickly because it'll open it up to all the stocks in the US market. So you can see you've got the buy and sell option. I'll go ahead and just buy one, and I will buy, let's take a look at GE. And so the GE stock pulls up, and you can see it's showing you the latest stock price, and it's showing you how the stock has performed for the day, so students can see all of that information, which is really beneficial when they're looking to make a trade. They have the ability, if they wanted to, they could see more of like an advanced stock chart screen here, where it's actually getting a little bit more into the technicals. And then I think really important to show too is all on the same stock trading screen is they have the ability to come down and see information about the company itself, any company news, so recent articles that are out about the company, any of the analyst ratings, they can go through and actually see what the analysts are saying. It's a moderate buy, strong buy, 5 hold, and then it just kind of shows the trends down here on those analyst ratings. And then you can go into the price history, which shows the trend of the price. And then you've got the financial statements, which is very beneficial too in the classroom when you're wanting students to do some financial statement analysis to make their investment decisions. And so you can see here, you've got the income statement, you've got the balance sheet, you've got a cash flow. You can change the reporting period from annual to quarterly. And then you've got just the different report periods that you could pull down. And so there's a lot of history here that the students can look at. And they can export it to Excel so they can run all sorts of analysis on it. So as you can see, a lot of good information just right on the trading screen itself for the students. And when you go in and you go set up a class, which I'll show you later, you have the ability to where you can set up trade notes. And so you can see here trade notes where you can make it where it's mandatory that the students fill out trade notes before they can buy or sell a stock. And for me as an instructor, that's always been really beneficial because I want the students making purchases or selling stocks for certain reasons. And seeing their thought process and seeing those reasons all documented in the trade notes is very good for me to see as a professor. So they could come in here and just say, lots of positive news on GE, ratios are strong, new management, taking company to the next level. Whatever you might want to put in here. And so then I would hit confirm, and now you can actually see, okay, great, I actually bought 100 shares of GE stock. Now also too, when you go and you place an order, you can have the students learn to use the market, a limit order if they wanted to put in a certain price, the stop, trailing stop, you buy dollar and trailing stop percentage. So great things here for all the students to see right on the trading stock page. Then there's mutual funds, and then there's bonds that they can trade if you wanted to keep it really simplistic for the students and not get into the heavy derivatives part of it for the classroom. If you do, I keep going over here just to show you, is you can have, if you're a professor, you could have different classes, and so these would be different sessions. So really what I'm doing over here is just changing the different sessions. And so this one actually would allow me to trade like futures, options, foreign currency, and then cash spots. So just figured I'd show you kind of an options. If you wanted to go in and trade options, you know, buy to open, buy to close, you got those different options. You've got your stock symbol. You know, we could put in here GE. You know, you call and put. You can get to select the call, put, expiration, strikes, all those things that would be necessary when you were looking at buying options. So again, all the information right here for the students to see. They can do a market, limit, or stop orders, contracts, all that. And then you would come into just using futures, and futures is really beneficial too. Like I've taught a derivatives class, and I had the students use options, and I had them trade futures, because futures are really important for a lot of finance students, even accounting students, because at some point they're going to go into corporate treasury, or they're going to be a CFO, you know, that might be the goal of theirs, or they just might get into various hedging and whatever they do with companies, and that's where futures comes in to be really handy, whether it's hedging interest rate futures or, you know, foreign currency if we're working for a big global company. But you can see here again, it's you buy, sell, short, and cover. You've got various different indices, the currencies, petroleum, metals, interest rates, so on and so forth. And they can come in here, they can choose the different contracts they want, you know, the E-minis, Russells, etc. So again, it's a lot of this, all the stuff the student would need to make the trade, learn how to hedge. Trade notes, again, are required here if you were to go and execute this. So that way you can still continue to see the thought process of the student as they're making the different trades. I think another thing that I would like to show you is I'd like to show you the admin dashboard, because, you know, as an instructor, it's really important to see how your students are performing and making sure that they're staying on track. So as Mike was saying earlier, on the user dashboard, there is announcements. Well, on the admin dashboard, there's an announcements section. You can see here all the forum posts of the students that are going, you know, they're chatting back and forth. You can see all the top traded securities in a class. And again, your class would change just based on the session that you were in. And then you can see the rankings of all your students for each individual class. And then you can come over here, and when we go through creating an assignment in just a minute, you'll see how this will get set up. But here is, you could have different assignments. You know, maybe you want to create weekly assignments for the students. Maybe it's every 2 weeks. Well, whatever you would choose is what the students, you know, what you can set up for the students. But all your students would be listed here, and it would show you the last login, which is important. You know, maybe if you saw this in 2 weeks since they last logged in, then that, you know, might prompt you to send an email to the student, making sure everything's okay. Seeing the completion percentage. And then you can change different assignments. If there are multiple assignments on here, you could change the different assignments and see how the students are doing on all of those assignments. So I think since I'm right here, what I will do is I will go through and show you all the assignments that are currently in the StockTrak system. We've got different levels of assignments on the stock trading game. There are some personal finance assignments that are in here as well. We've got some other assignments that we can, you know, pull in as well that are accounting and economics focused. But the assignments are various levels of articles the student can read, and also activities they can do. And activities, when we get to the bottom in just a second, I'll show you what we mean by activities. But you can see there's stock beginner lessons, reading an article. There's stock intermediate lessons. There's different reading articles. And as you go through as an instructor to create these assignments, you could go in and you could say module 1, beginning stock lessons. And then you can do that. Then you can choose the assignment dates, how long you'd want the students to do it, just like you would as if you were scheduling your own assignments in your own syllabus. You can just create that here. So we'll just leave those dates in. You can make it prerequisites where they've got to finish a certain assignment first before they could do this next assignment. So you have that there. And then you could have it where when they finish an assignment, they could get a reward value. So maybe you say, oh, I'm going to give them $100 in their cash account for their stock portfolio. Or if you're using the budgeting game, you can put, let's say, $100 into their checking account every time they finish an assignment. Or you could just leave it zero, really just kind of up to you. But if you want to include them in here, you just come through and you check all these different lessons, all these articles. And if you want the students to read the article, you read it multiple times because there's quizzes at the end. You could actually just say, well, allow a retry. So they could go back through and read it however many times they needed to correctly answer the 4 or 5 questions that are at the end of each article. And when we talk about articles, just to show you this, articles have all sorts of good information about what is a stock. The definition, what does it mean, the different types of stock, the difference between stocks and bonds. You can come down through here. There's some videos that the students can watch and see the videos. And then when they get to the bottom, this is where they have the quizzes. And on this one, there's actually 5 quiz questions they can go through. They can answer those questions. And if they read the article above, they would get those answers correct. So very good information for the student to actually read to understand what is a stock. So we come on down, you can see here's some of the personal finance lessons. We've got a lot, starting with calculators, different calculators, the car loan calculator, credit card payments calculator. And what they are is they're interactive. So you change amounts and it'll show you how long it'll take you to pay off your credit card, or how much more you have to spend to pay off your credit card because of the interest and penalties that you would have to pay. We've got things down here about savings and spending plans, paying yourself first. We've got articles on student loans, using credit, debit cards, buying a car. We've got basic things on taxes. There's insurance here, all things that are very, very beneficial for the college students and high school students to understand. And then we've got articles on debts, debt negotiation.
And I think one of the things that Lauren is pointing out is the flexibility and the customization here that you have the ability to do. And whether it's a personal finance class where you add all this in, whether it's a more advanced class, obviously she will continue to show you some of that. But once again, I just wanted you to have just a little takeaway with that volume of lessons that you can mix, match, customize to whatever you think would be most appropriate for your students.
Right. And then as you come on down, here's the different activities I was talking about, and then really, kind of focus on, the stock activities. You could go in an assignment, and let's say it's a weekly assignment. You could have your students say, maybe you want them to trade 2 stocks a week. So whether they buy a stock or sell a stock, you just want to keep them engaged. Because I've noticed as a professor myself, keeping those students engaged each week was really important. Because you want them to learn, and they learn best by getting in and doing and experiencing the stock market. So that weekly engagement was important. And the more they get engaged, the more comfortable they feel at the end of the class and really understanding the stock market. So to me, the weekly engagement is really a success for everybody overall, because the students, it's a success because they're more comfortable with trading stocks and have a better understanding at the end of class. And it's a win for the professor, because that's what you want your students to accomplish going through your classes, understanding the material and feeling more comfortable with it. So that's really a nice feature that StockTrak has, is that you can create those weekly assignments where they have to trade certain things. And you could have them with trades, mutual funds, if you wanted them to do bonds, treasury bonds, maybe even short a stock or ETF. And as Mike was saying just a minute ago, that would be for a more advanced class. And you wouldn't have to include that if it wasn't an advanced class, but you would have that ability if it were. And then you get down into, if you want them to learn how to use the market order, which if they buy or sell stock, they would, or a limit order. And so they got the different options here where you can just teach them the different things. And I know last spring, I was actually teaching the Student Managed Investment Fund Portfolio Management class. And in March, when the stock market just started going down, I was able to teach my students the get till cancel order, because we were taking a look at the current stock prices and saying, wow, I think the market's going to keep going down. So maybe let's set some GTCs in for 5% below the current value. And so the students were going in and we were setting those GTCs, and they got to see some of those GTCs go off because you guys saw it was really volatile at that time. And so sometimes there's the flash crash in the morning or afternoon, we would pick up that stock, and the students really got a good understanding of that and had a lot of fun doing it too. And then you can encourage international investing, which I think is very important because it is a global economy today. The countries have to work together, and we all, share a lot of goods and services. I think that's really important for the international investing to students get an understanding. And then really continue to move down, you can see this would be for the options or derivatives for maybe a more advanced investments class. I was on the phone yesterday with a professor who is using this for his derivatives class. He has an applied derivatives class that he has the students in. And so what he's doing is he's teaching them the theory during class time, and then he's wanting the students to apply that theory on their own by using the StockTrak Trading platform. And so they can come in here and they can do all of this. You've got different options, and then you can come down to those different futures I was talking about. And again, you can encourage them to do a trade each week just to get that experience and exposure. And that was one of the things that the professor said, is that he really truly felt that his students would learn by being engaged. And he had traded options for many, many, many years. And so he was really glad to see that this platform had that ability so the students could engage and could learn the material. So I think if there's not any questions there, I don't see any questions, but I can't really see the screen since I'm showing my screen. I think with that, I will go up and show you how you can set up a class, because I think that's very important too. So when you go through and you set up a new class, you can choose, what level you're at. We'll just choose, say, it's a portfolio management class. And I'll just do this just for now. You go through, you can put in your class name. So you put your class name here, your estimated number of students, I'll just keep it at 25. You have it where the students can pay or the university can pay. You have your registration start and end dates, you have your trade dates, and then you can change your time zone or enable your forum. So if you want your students to be able to talk back and forth, just hit yes. And then you go in through and hit next, and we'll just hit undergrad, and then description. You can put an additional description in here for your class if you wanted to. And then if there's a certain textbook, there's a lot of textbooks that StockTrak has worked with over the years. So you can put your textbook in, and a lot of these textbooks, have coupons at the back to be able to use StockTrak. So it's good to see the textbook there. And then this is where you really get into the parameters of the class. And a couple things as we go through, I'll just point out, is I want you to see the currencies that are available on the system. So, I think most often it's going to be the US dollar, but we do have universities, we do have corporations overseas that do use this platform. So there's 40 different currencies on here.
Lauren?
Uh-huh.
I would like to address some of the questions. I'm pulling up questions that have been popping up.
Oh, good. Thank you, Mike.
Number one, the delay in price information for stocks.
Okay.
Want to address that?
Yes, sure. So the delay in the trade information for stocks. So the U.S. exchanges and most exchanges are very particular about getting real-time data. And so when the student goes in and they're seeing the time on the trade page, they see the time on the trade page. I'll go to that actually over here, because that might be very helpful. So we'll just go back to, GE here. So let's go back to GE, and you'll see that was 11/16. That would be the last time that it was updated. It would be 11/16 Central Time. It's typically every 15, 20-minute delay on that. So when the student is looking at it, they're seeing a 15 to 20-minute delay. But when they actually go down and they purchase the stock, they buy the stock, they're actually getting the real-time price on the New York Stock Exchange. It's just the reason for the delay is the stock exchanges are very particular about that real-time data. And so having the 15-minute delay, they feel much more comfortable with having that ability. So the student will actually get it at the real-time price when they buy it. So it is the real bid-ask spreads that the students get when they're buying and selling those stocks.
Okay, a couple of other questions here is, and I'll answer this one because cryptocurrency is included in the platform. And the next question for you, Lauren, can the students see some examples of analyst reports in addition to aggregate ratings?
On the system itself, what they see with the analyst ratings is they won't see any specific reports here. What they see is, the number of companies that are reviewing it, and they can see the trends over time. So there's no specific analyst reports actually in here. But there is some other things within the StockTrak system. So if you went over to quotes and you wanted to take a look at the quotes over here, you could start seeing some more information over on this left-hand column. So you can see GE here. There's some more information on GE, more of the news and the data on GTE. We could come over here, see some key ratios. But again, if we go to these analyst ratings, it's still what we saw on that main page, but there's still a lot of information here. That any other questions?
No, I'll let you know as I see questions pop up.
Okay, good. Yes, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. So you can see you've got the currency of the portfolio. The weekly deposit is really if you wanted to add money to a student's account each week, you could add money to the account. So they learn how to, as they get an inflow of money coming in, they can learn how to continue to buy stocks over time with that. And one thing I really like is this initial cash balance. You can decide how big it's going to be for the students. If it's a more fundamental trading class, or maybe just a personal finance class, or you're just wanting to make an introduction to stock trading, mutual fund trading, you can maybe start it out with $100,000. For me, with my investments in derivatives classes that use this, I would start out with $1 million because they were college students, they were graduate students actually, and it seemed like it was an appropriate dollar amount for them to manage. And then you can say, if you don't want them to be trading penny stocks, you can put a minimum price on that. And then as we were talking earlier on the rankings, you can display the Sharpe ratio rankings. We do have some of the alpha and beta rankings. As I mentioned, the Trainer ratio and Jensen's alpha are on this way. You could start with a pre-populated portfolio for all your students. If you wanted to go ahead and create it and they started with one and they could all have the same starting points. If you wanted to do some more of the advanced stuff, you could allow short selling, you could allow day trading. You can make all portfolios public, which means that the students can see other students' portfolio in the class. I actually like that as a professor because a lot of the students, I could see them as they were coming into class. This was, pre-COVID, obviously, but they would come into class and some of the students would be laughing with each other because maybe the day before, one of their friends was ahead, and then the day after, the other one was ahead. And so it just kind of created a lot of fun atmosphere in the class when they were all portfolios were made public. And the other things the students really like is they really like to see the professor account in the class rankings because so many professors or so many students want to try to beat the professor. So that can be a lot of fun too. And then here's the area where it was require students to make trade notes. And you can do yes or no, of course, hit yes. This is just for more advanced trading. I just usually always do 100%, but it's just fill orders with daily volume. You can limit number of trades per day if you wanted to. And we've got some badges that the students can earn over time.
With regard to the trade notes that you just mentioned, it should also be noted that the faculty do have access to reports that they can actually run a report and get the information on all of their students as to their trade notes. So that's a tool. And also we had another question come in here from a faculty member that was asking about, when we were talking about lessons, does it grade for you? And the answer is each lesson, when they complete those questions, are graded. But, and then is there a grade book? And I know that we have rankings and we have exportable reports that you can pull, but as far as a grade book combining, say, the trading along with the lessons, at this point, there is no combined grade book. Lauren, I don't know if you want to speak to that further.
Yeah, for me, when I was using in the classroom, I had it where I just was reviewing the completion for the students, because for me, this was the end of course assignment for them. So their grade really came in when they put together the report showing how all the stocks they traded, how their portfolio had performed. And then, I actually had them get up and give a presentation of how it had performed. So for me, the grade book wasn't, as important, because the way I was using it in the classroom, it was all building up towards that final report. The weekly assignments were just to see that they were learning the material and they were actually making those stock trades along the way. Okay. And so now we're into the security types. So again, depending on how advanced or fundamental you want your class to be, you could have the stocks and ETFs that the students trade, and maybe nothing else. Maybe that's sufficient for your class. Well, great. You can come in through here, have them do stocks, ETFs. You can have your commission. You can put in the commission that you want. Position limit, this is good, because you could say you don't want any of your students to invest more than, let's say, 5% in any stock. So you could kind of limit that if you wanted to. In diversification, would just say maybe, for here wouldn't be applicable for using just equities, but let's say we had several different these security types where you could say, you know what, I don't want any more than 25% of the overall portfolio to be allocated to equities. And so you can make that change there. And then this is where you can go through and you can choose the exchanges that you want. I'll just keep it for North America for now. Just for demonstration for purposes of the demonstration, but I'll just keep it North America for now. But you can see we have the Latin American exchanges, there's all these European exchanges, and there's these Asia exchanges. And I will comment on these exchanges that, some of the more liquid ones, they have the delayed data like the US exchanges do. And some of these others, like the Asian exchanges, it might just be end of day pricing. But the students are still benefiting being able to trade on these various exchanges. And then here's where we can go and we can do the white list and black list I was talking about earlier. You could go through and add all the stocks, maybe that select group of stocks you want the students to trade and only be able to trade. You would add those in here. And then maybe there's some of those stocks that you don't want those students to trade. You could put those blacklisted stocks in here, and they wouldn't even see those. If they were to make a trade, they couldn't even choose those to trade. And then you could come on down and you could do mutual funds. Again, the same commission, position limit, diversification on all of these. Say bonds, just do options, futures. Just have to hit yes on this one. It's just they require us to hit yes on that. And then see, we'll do future options and we'll do foreign currency as well. Let's do them all while we're at it. And so then we're gonna hit next. And then this is where we now get to our assignments. And I won't go through this since we already did it, but this is where you can go through and you can start seeing those assignments and creating those different assignments and looking for the completion and on these articles for the grades if you wanted to do that. And then I think the last thing I wanted to show is, so let's go to, I think over here to reports. I think I just want to quickly address this so you guys could see this, and then I'll quickly move to the budget game and be respectful of time. But just to show, there's a bunch of, there's the ranking reports, there is the top traded securities reports. So you can see the most traded securities, report downloads. This is what Mike was saying earlier, is there's a lot of these reports that you could actually download. You can export them into Excel. And then you can see all the information from there. Like here's the students' trade notes. You can compare your students' portfolios by date, side by side. You can see all their transaction history, open positions, things like that. So I think with that, Mike, I was going to move to the budget game. Is there anything else you wanted to comment on, or is there any other questions that came in?
No, not at this point. There's no additional questions, but yeah, once again, I think if you want to just give a couple of minute overview of the budget game. Just and once again, that really is probably more of a personal finance level type of class that would integrate, say, some fundamentals of stock trading, would incorporate some financial literacy lessons, along with adding the gamification component in the budgeting game, which is one of the things that we believe keeps the students engaged. So go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, and I'll just touch on this. You can see there's a lot on the screen, and I'll just point out some key things. So this could be, each month for a student to go through a month is about 20 minutes, and you can see what they will see is their net worth, the credit score. Their credit score will change based on their credit card balance and how much they're using their credit card to pay for certain things. Here's quality of life. So as they go through each month, they have certain questions that pop up. Like, do you have a chance to, maybe stay home and study, or do you have a chance to go out and socialize with your friends? And based on different things that they choose, getting a good balance, they'll get a higher quality of life score. And here's their savings account balance, here's their checking account balance, and then you can see the credit card balance for the total amount they can borrow. And then it shows them, they can transfer money, so they could transfer money between their checking to savings, or if they need to, they can go back from their savings to checking, so they really get a good understanding of that. And then you can see their monthly cash in, cash out flow. They've got all these different bills that they have to pay each month, and they'll pop up at different times. And if they don't pay those bills on time, they do get a penalty for that. They will have to pay 10% interest, on that if they're late. And then they can go through and they can pay their credit card too. And it's just like a regular credit card. It'll keep track of all their purchases, and they've got to pay that on time, or they get assessed with fees. And it'll actually show them all their transactions that they did throughout the month. And if we were to play this game, what would happen is we would go through, we would have bills, as I mentioned, would come due. They would have different lessons that would pop up, and the different lessons on the same, maybe it's wants versus needs, or maybe it's different pop-up lessons on insurance. And the lessons, what they are is they'll pop up, student has to read the article, and then they've got one question they have to answer, and then they can answer that question. If they read the article, they answer that one question, and they will automatically get $25 into their checking account if they answered it correctly. If they didn't answer it correctly, I think it takes the $10 out of their account. So it's fun and engaging. Every day or two, there's something that pops up that they have to address and have to understand. And, they learn to use their debit card too, because as they have to pay for certain things, like, they need to get gas, or they've got to run to the grocery store, they get an option to choose whether it's via the debit card or credit card. And I think, just to mention what Mike had said just a minute ago, is this really is great for a personal finance course, maybe a university-wide personal finance course. I know a lot of universities are coming out with that now, and maybe it's all incoming freshmen, or maybe it's just a class for opening for everybody. I know last year, just in February, right before the pandemic hit, I was at a university out in Florida, and there was a professor that was teaching a personal finance class, and he actually said that it was one of the most popular classes on campus, because all the students were really interested in learning about personal finance. They wanted to learn how to read their W-2 statement. They wanted to understand basics on taxes and insurance and all that stuff that we covered back over on the curriculum when we were looking at the different assignments.
Hey, Lauren, before we, I do have a few more questions that popped up as we were rolling here, so I want to throw those out as well. So the first question was, how is beta calculated? Is there a way to show how beta changes with the estimation windows?
That we could get the information for you and actually show you how that is calculated within the system. So if we can get the email address from that professor, we could actually show him that, because we do have.
Next one, are there option strategy lessons?
Sorry, Mike, you broke up. There option
strategy lessons?
Not at this time. We have it where the professors can create their own. We do have some other professors that have used it, that maybe we could go back and look at kind of some of what they have done in terms of lessons. I was actually talking to that derivatives professor yesterday about maybe creating some lessons for the class, because that is a very common question. And I myself experienced that when I was teaching derivatives, is having some of those option trading strategy lessons in here would be really good. It does address, different options. So it would talk about the put options, it talks about the call options, but in terms of looking for the different, spreads, the strangles, things like that, those specific strategies aren't in here, not yet at least.
Final question. Well, there's two actually. So the students have a full range of buying and selling options and viewing option chains.
Okay, so if we go over, let me go back to here.
And as you go there, I'm going to answer the other one. It says the students have to pay to use StockTrak. And in our platform, the vast majority of our students at universities, about 80% of the programs, the students actually pay for it. And just to kind of give you a rough overview of pricing that is on our website, but just as a snapshot for a semester-long program, it's in or around $30 per student to participate. And most schools, about 80%, do it that way. And then we have 20% of the schools that actually set up custom sites and pay for the program for their students to join at no cost.
And I think with that, what I do want to show is if you, as a professor, you do go in and you create a class and the students are going to pay for it. So when you go set up the class, you will get a class link. And that was the link that you would have to send to your students. They'll access that link and then they'll have to go in, register, they can pay via credit card there, and then they get dumped straight into your class. As Mike was saying, the other way is the university. We could just build a university, and then those other 20%, yeah, they have multiple classes using it. They have multiple semesters that are using it at the same time, and so it's more cost beneficial for them to do it. But also too is, as we've started getting more of the financial literacy initiatives going, a lot of the universities are starting to move towards having some of their own custom sites too, because now they want to have it where you can use financial literacy campus-wide, and then you can use the StockTrak platform for some of those advanced finance and accounting courses. And even economic courses. We've got several agricultural economic courses that use StockTrak because they're teaching the students how to hedge their crops. If you're a farmer, you want to know what you can sell your crops for, so they get into hedging. There was a question, Mike, though, on the options, right?
Right. So students have a full range of buying and selling options and viewing option chains.
Yeah. So what we got, on the system now, we've got the simple, and then we've got some of these spreads. So you can get pretty technical if the students wanted to do the spreads. But I'm not sure about the option chains part of it. But when you come through the simple, they've got the calls and puts, the expiration dates that they could choose. I'll just do one, for example. Let's say we could just do a call, and then you could come through here and see all the different, you can see it's got a lot here, right? It's got all the options that are out there for the student to write calls on. You can go to 4-1, then you can go through, you can choose all the different strike prices, and say it's like 12.5. You say you wanted to do 5 contracts, you can do your limit type. You can do your order term. If you wanted to go, just do this limit. You can do your limit price, and then you're good for the day or good till cancel. And then, you can go into the option spreads and get a little bit more technical. So hopefully that answered the questions, but I think everything you would need to do in terms of executing the simple option trades or executing some of the more complicated trades, like some of those lessons that were just asked earlier, the students could actually come in and execute those here. I think that's, any other questions, Mike?
No, that gets us current on questions, Lauren.
All right. I think I'm good. I don't know if you have any final comments that you wanted to say, or just kind of close it out.
Well, sure. Thanks. Once again, we are here for you. If any of you have follow-up questions, would like us to assist you in working on a course, just feel free to email Lauren, and I'm going to have you throw out your email.
Yeah, it's Lauren, Lauren, Minch, Minch at StockTrak, spelled just like StockTrak, StockTrak.com.
So we thank you for joining us today. If there's no further questions, I'm going to open up the Q&A bucket one more time. I think that final question was, is there a way to view the option chain though? And I think you addressed that or attempted to address that, Lauren?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Okay, I think that is it. We want to thank you for joining us today. And once again, feel free to reach out and send us an email. We'd be happy to hop on a call with you to discuss everything from financial literacy to your custom course for your students. So thank you for joining us, and you have a great day.
Thank you.